In some news that should surprise absolutely no one, Lane Kiffin hinting that the so straight-laced Oklahoma Sooners that don't do anything against the rules have Auburn signs. What?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day, or maybe your second listen. This is a bonus edition of the show with the Ben Taylor of the Auburn Network family of stations. He hosts Auburn Opelika this morning on News Talk WANI. What does Auburn need to do against Arkansas? That's coming up. But Lane Kiffin, anytime he has a press conference, it seems to generate something. Yeah. This time it is kind of redirected to Auburn. At his presser yesterday when talking about Oklahoma, he says, quote, "It seems they've got a really good beat on the plays and are coming when they're called, and they do a great job of going and taking those away. You look at the Auburn game. I told Hugh Freeze after the game watching it, you might want to switch your signals. It looks like they have the plays." Now, we know Oklahoma willing to do whatever it takes to win, and the SEC is totally okay with it. While I don't have any issue with teams looking at other people's sign, I said that during the whole Connor Stallions thing as well.
Yep.
We changed our signs every week, and I played 3A private school football in Alabama at Lee Scott. You should be doing that every week at the college level and the SEC level for sure. I don't have an issue with this, but I do think it would answer some of the questions about the offense. I'm not saying it's true or not, but it would answer some of the questions, Ben.
Well, the biggest question is you keep hearing about every now and then it being a difficult offense, or they're not doing things correctly, or they're not making the right reads. And I'm like, well, it's so simple. We got teams stealing signs. Like, and you got teams. I think Lane, didn't he go on to say basically he was cutting off the slant routes? Like they knew when we were probably going to be running a slant. So that was more than some of the and now that could be something very simple. Also, it gets
this is from the AL.com story on it. Kiffin mentioned seeing Oklahoma's middle safety running down immediately after the snap to try and intercept a slant route on one play, something he said is, quote, very abnormal. And they dropped that pick, if I remember correctly. That was a pick that it looked like it might have been going the other way, and he dropped it.
Well, how many of that, too, is now Auburn's done it a little bit lately, but clearly the offense shows not being able to score 20 points. It's not like they're going deep down the field anyway, so it may not be necessarily stealing signs as it could be some safeties are just cheating. They're just coming up and they know they're not going to go deep, so they're cheating. But sure. It's interesting to – number one, I love how Lane always makes something about him. Like, he has got nothing to do with Auburn.
It's hilarious. It's crazy.
He's just like, hey, by the way, I called Hugh after the Oklahoma game and said, hey, they're stealing your signs.
Right.
And not just that, it doesn't seem that it's affected Auburn's offense whatsoever. They haven't made any adjustments. So I don't know if Hugh blew him off or just said, you know what? I don't think that's right. I don't think that they are.
Well, you know, adjustments and changing signs aren't the same thing, right? Like those could be totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how that's communicated. I also would, I also wonder how much of that happens, like with the communication to Jackson and the, I don't know, and the helmet stuff, but so everybody else has to know the play too. So,
well, that was my next thing is, so he's talking to him in the headsets. So is it a sign coming in that last 15 seconds, like a check, or when Jackson walks to the line and holds the center and says, wait just a second, looks to the sideline? Is that what they're picking up?
There doesn't seem to be a ton of like communication between Jackson and everybody else. So it seems like they all have the play at that point would be my guess.
Yeah.
They'll change it every now and then, but it doesn't seem to be too often.
Yeah.
So I just think all of that is interesting. And is this just Lane Kiffin trolling Hugh Freeze and saying, hey, if I know I say this while his seat's already hot, you know, I'm just going to kind of keep stirring the pot a little bit, which it worked. If that's the goal, it worked. I mean, I have a hard time thinking that like Lane Kiffin is publicly just trying to help out Hugh Freeze, right? I have a hard time seeing that be the case. Or maybe he just thinks all of this is funny and he's texting Hugh after like, sorry, LOL, you know, something like that. Because me and you would do that, right? In a similar situation. Yeah. So I don't fully know what the motives are, but if the intent was to throw more on the fire,
it worked.
I think it worked. Yeah.
It works. I do think that it's the latter of what you said. I think that Lane at least thinks he's friends with every coach in the Southeastern Conference. I don't know if he is or he isn't, but he comes across as that guy's like the cool guy. Like he thinks when he's in the room, like everybody wants to be around him. So he, makes jabs here and there. I mean, you did see after their game, even though he got beat, he and Kirby were having a moment after the game, like in the tunnel. Those pictures have surfaced. And so I do think Lane does have, hey, listen, he's been fired on a tarmac before. So I think Lane's pretty aware that it can happen at any place. And so I think he does kind of have a soft spot, and he's not really, I don't think he's trolling. I think he's just trying to be funny. But all it did was give Auburn fans more ammunition to go, hey, coach, what are you doing?
Sure.
Like clearly, if a guy that has no vested interest in Auburn, because they're not playing Auburn, they were playing Oklahoma, so maybe that's why he was watching the tape. But clearly, it stood out to him, and he wasn't even scouting Auburn, and he still saw it. He still was able to pick it up. So it must have been blatantly obvious if he is telling the truth.
Yeah, and there's been other places that have speculated, like when Hugh Freeze was at previous stops, you were able to tell what they were doing based on like how the tight end was lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's still part of it. I'm just speculating on this because the scheme's not good in the sense that it's not working. Well, does this hint into why perhaps it's not working? Like this wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But I also just wonder like how often they change their signs. I think that'd be interesting.
I think it's an interesting point that if they're stealing them, that clearly means that we've used them multiple games because Oklahoma was able to pick it up on tape at some point and go, hey, whenever they do this is
and if it was just Oklahoma, it'd be different because Oklahoma's like they're really good defensively and they're really aggressive. Venables likes to be aggressive on defense, and that's how they played. And is that just did Oklahoma put enough on tape to then like if I'm playing Auburn, I'm trying to copy them as much as I can. They can't copy them in the sense of what their defensive line can do talent wise, but they can still get in the receiver's face, pressure Jackson Arnold with stunts and all of that. And like that's what we've seen. We've seen A&M do that. We've seen Georgia do that. We saw Missouri do that. Now Georgia and Missouri, I think, were a little bit less successful than the other two, which is a little interesting. And how much of that is like the Auburn's offensive line, I think, is getting a little bit better at communicating. And they still can't it's just other players can't capitalize. Like if the calls go exactly how Hugh calls them, like Cam Coleman catches a touchdown pass against Missouri, and it might light that game up. Or if Jackson Arnold doesn't fumble on the goal line on the tush push or the QB sneak, whatever you want to call it, and you're up 17-0 against Georgia, like then is the scheme okay? Like, and this is where like I know Auburn fans hate it, and I don't like it either. Like when you talk about close, but it's like if you do capitalize on situations where you can put your foot on the throat of the opponent and just win the game before the clock hits zero, but nobody seems to want to do that.
Well, and that's my counter to that when Hugh says we're close, or if we just execute, it's like, yeah, but they have close calls too. I mean, we've had missed interceptions or they've had drops. I mean, we even Baylor. I mean, going back to the first game, they had some drops, and so I mean, you can go that same route, missed opportunity out of both programs. The Georgia's the one that probably stands out just because it would have been 17-0. I think that Georgia handles that game a whole lot differently in the second half than what they did. If Auburn does go up 17-0, and so that's the one that really is it got away. But going back to the sign deal. Zach, I don't know if you remember, but I distinctly remember the safeties coming up and cheating a couple times during A&M after the Oklahoma game. So apparently we probably
and that also just could be like, hey, we don't trust Jackson to throw it beyond 20 yards.
Right.
Like let's just be aggressive here and make him beat us. And if we give up a deep one, like, okay, so be it. Because that hasn't really happened yet. Like that's how I would play Auburn. If I had a talented defense, which every team we've played so far in the conference play has, that's how I would stop Auburn.
Oh, I would definitely cheat because clearly you got a team that can't score 20 points because they haven't done it yet in conference play. So why not let the safeties cheat? Why not make them extra linebackers? Because clearly you're going to be able to stop the run if you bring them up. You're going to cut those slants, and you're basically. I know you're going to put your corners on an island, but they got away with a non-PI call this past weekend.
Right.
Down when his corner was on because there was no safety help on that route.
Right.
Clearly, the safety was cheating up a little bit. So, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm like, they haven't scored 20 yet, so let's make them try to score 20.
And it's going to be interesting this weekend because Arkansas is a defense that you should be able to score on. Will that happen? What does Auburn need to do? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone their worth between 401ks, savings, and investments. It's easy to lose track. That can only mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop and on your phone. I love it because I've used like budgeting apps in the past, and I've also used like financial management apps in the past. This combines them. It can do everything. Anything financially involved in your financial life, Monarch can take care of you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, the Auburn Tigers, a 1.5 point favorite on the road against Arkansas. Nope, it has changed. Arkansas is now a 1.5 point favorite. Wow. Yep, that is what it says. Arkansas -1.5. That's fascinating. So if you think Auburn's going to win this game, maybe take the Auburn money line, put $5 down. And if your first $5 bet hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Ben Taylor hanging out with us of the Auburn Network family of stations. So just said it there. Auburn heads to Fayetteville. They are now an underdog, which thought the line might move. I thought Auburn being favored by 1.5 was right. No, they're saying Arkansas now favored by 1.5. Curious to see if the line moves even more as we get closer and closer to Saturday. But this is a game that Auburn should win on paper. I'm not picking them to win. As of right now, I would not pick Auburn to beat Arkansas because I'm not convinced that Auburn can't score because of talent. I think it's scheme. And so when you're going up against a defense that I think you are more talented than, Auburn's offense doesn't do the things that allow you to capitalize on talent. They don't throw 50-50 balls. They don't run it over and over and over again. They try to, be cute with all this different stuff, whether it's RPO or whatever. So I don't know if the lack of talent on Arkansas' side of the ball defensively, I don't know how much that's really going to impact Auburn. So until they do it, I'm at the point now where I'm going to have a hard time picking Auburn to do anything.
I need people to wrap their head around this. I put it on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now. I posted it day before yesterday. Auburn fans need to wrap their head around the fact that they may not get a conference win this year. I
think they beat Kentucky.
You got Bobby Petrino playing for his job because he would love to be rehired again. So he's going to pull out all the stops and use his Bobby Petrino mind to try to capitalize, even against a great defense like Auburn. And if they score over 20, clearly they got a great chance of winning. And so that's the watermark now. Same thing with Kentucky, even though I'm with you, I probably would pick Auburn. However, it would not surprise me after what I saw with Kentucky and Texas this past weekend if Kentucky keeps it close and Auburn finds a way to not overcome adversity again. And so they possibly could lose that game. Vanderbilt has proven that they are the real deal. So you got to be worried about the Vandy game. And then Alabama, I've said it before, I think Alabama is one of the teams that's playing some of the best football right now. So if they continue on that trajectory heading up, it could get really ugly in Jordan-Hare on the Iron Bowl weekend. So Auburn fans need to wrap their head around that they could be winless or just have one win in conference this year because of the inability to overcome, to put points on the board. I don't want to hear about the field goals that people go, hey, we missed field. Hey, that's been nothing new all year. And number two, Alex McPherson is being forced into that role and not 100% healthy. And clearly we don't have a backup that can put it through the upright. So he's got to be out there. And, as you just said, even last game with Coleman's drop passes. So I'm not shocked that Arkansas is favored. I mean, with it being at home, and as I said, Petrino's wild mind of maybe putting up 24 or 26 points, that wins you the ball game right now against Auburn. So unless Auburn decides to break out and do something different offensively, I think we're going to see the same old stuff that we've been seeing the last few games in conference play and remain over when we come out of Fayetteville this weekend.
Yeah, that would be devastating. That would be devastating. The lack of belief in the program would be at a new low for sure.
Well, we said it last week, Zach, when you and I visited, that I thought this past weekend was a must-win game. This one's definitely a must-win game. And I don't think that they have them in them to make that happen, whether it's the staff or the players or the execution. I'm with you on scheme. This is about the third different broadcast team that I've seen that have said some of the same thing, where they're like, why are we not doing more with Coleman? Like putting him in motion, giving him some end arounds, maybe running some even bubbles to the outside. Instead, he's doing like some 5 and in. They saw some short
passes. A lot of
curls.
Weekend.
A lot of curls.
A lot of just sitting. Yep.
And so I'm with some of these broadcast crews where they're sitting there going, it's the old thing. It's just like high school football. Find your best athlete on the field and give them the ball.
Right.
And I know that everybody wants to see the deep throw, and I'm fine with that. I'd like to see the deep one too. I mean, I know he missed one, but there are other ways to get the ball in his hands. And I would like to see that too, when you've got one of the best athletes on the field, period, out of both teams that are out there at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're doing enough with Singleton. I don't think they're doing enough with Malcolm. They finally, I think, found the right way to use Perry, which is exciting, but it's like, that was the only
bright spot this past weekend. Perry Thompson, we're like, this is the guy we thought we would have.
And Cobb. Jeremiah Cobb was great.
Yeah, Cobb was great. I mean, but that's another one. I mean, I think, Cobb makes a couple of runs and gets in position, and all of a sudden, don't get me wrong, I don't mind subbing out, but then he becomes non-existent. You use him for something else, for decoy or for, or to RPO, and I still don't know how much of an RPO or how much of it is a called run for Jackson a lot of times. I know that they're saying it's RPO. I'm like, he's not reading anything. He literally. Yeah,
sometimes it looks like it is, and sometimes it looks like it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's zero excuse with the weapons that Auburn has to see the results we've seen. And I'm not talking wins and losses. I'm talking offensive performance, period. Because your defense, you can't be asked to pitch a shutout, but this defense actually has the ability to pitch a shutout. The bad part is you don't know how much your offense has the ability to put the ball in the end zone, or, Hugh's big thing. We got to at least come in every drive with a field goal, meaning whether it's an extra point or whether it's a kick, but in every drive and that ain't come close to happening. So, I
think when he said that, though, like, to his credit, and now this, if you disagree with his philosophy, that's fine. But when he said that, he said end every drive with a kick. So either score or don't turn it over was the context of when he said that. He was fine with punting in that scenario, which we've done a lot of.
Yeah. Hudson Cox getting a lot of action.
Yeah, for sure. Ben Taylor, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
AUnetwork.com, the place to find me. Click on the WANI logo, and we do sports each and every morning just after 7. We don't tell Kyle that. He is not real sure about that, but that's when we do it.
Oh, good old Charlie 5. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.